Witcher.
Zoltan Chive, good to see you.
You got inside the town okay? Plenty of work for a Witcher in Vizima.
It seems so. How did you manage to get in?
Nasty non-humans will always find a way to sneak into human homes.
True enough. Listen, Zoltan, I wanted to talk to you.
Yes?
Know anything about Vivaldi's bank?
Now it's only Vivaldi's by name.
How so?
New owners. Humans.
That explains a lot.
Really?
Who's the richest person in Vizima's temple quarter?
Used to be Vivaldi, but now Declan Luvarden's your man. The guy shits gold.
Nice.
Beautiful analogy. Thanks.
Yes?
Got a minute?
What's eating you?
I warn you, some philosophy's involved.
The meaning of life, eh?
The evil that Witchers fight stems from chaos, from actions aimed at disturbing order. For where evil spreads, order cannot be established. Instead of the light of wisdom, the glimmer of hope, and the glow of warmth, darkness ensues. And in darkness you find nothing but blood, fangs, and claws. Like in the outskirts.
Nicely put, but as young Cero said to King Verdank on their first date, does it have any practical uses?
The right of Witchers to live and function in this world has fallen out of balance, because the struggle between good and evil now plays out on a different battlefield with different rules. Evil has ceased being chaotic. No longer a blind elemental power, evil follows rules according to the rights it's been granted. It functions in line with treaties.
That's progress. With more of us living longer, we can slaughter one another in the thousands. Progress is like a herd of pigs. The herd brings many benefits, but no one should wonder at all the shit.
Shit or no shit, Witchers exist to slay monsters. How can I when the real monsters hide behind ideals, faith, or the law?
The biggest evil is moral relativity, which kills more than the Catriona Plague and dragons combined. Witchers will always be needed, no matter where that pig herd leads us.
Thanks, Zoltan.
Yes?
So, in the realm of being a piece of fantasy media, lore, I enjoy the world thus far. I feel like it's also because this is probably, years and years old. But, for its time, it probably was, a fairly well received game. I've not really, you don't hear much about one very often. And I think probably because it's kind of rough around the edges. It seems like it's, the combat is so-so. Like, the fact that, like, the different combat mechanism is fine. But I mean, for instance, running into that vampire thing in the garden was, like, I literally just had to click the right pattern, and that was it. Now, that might be the difficulty that I'm on, so I guess take that with a grain of salt, that, it flying up and me still swinging during the same pattern knocked it down to where I could still hit it. But I literally can just stand there and swing, and for the vast majority of the game, that's fine. And again, that might be the difficulty that I'm on. But I find it hard to follow what I'm actually supposed to do. I'm opening the journal a lot to figure out where I'm going. And that honestly is just probably an RPG game. And to be fair, don't normally play single player playthroughs. So and they're not issues, they're just my tete-a-tetes with the game, is just me this is kind of my introduction really into like the first game that I am exploring, playing through I did play Skyrim for a little bit, but not in any grand amount of time. I love how he literally walked around Zoltan and then between us. Oh, look, okay, whatever. Yeah, so it's also disjointed to me. Like, I love stuff like that. Like this interaction with Zoltan, where the lore, is explained, where, the motto came in for the Witchers. That's cool. That I enjoy. I'm a sucker for world building, for story, for stuff like that. But then you run into where you're doing the menial jobs that end up honestly coming into the larger timeline. I just think that me trying to grab all those jobs has convoluted really my game experience of what it's wanting me to do. And like you say, it is an older game. It wasn't, it's kind of crunchy. So, right. Yeah, exactly. It is very vague in what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to clear some of these missions. The whole I have to have the knowledge of the creature or the plant to even be able to successfully complete the mission is kind of a pain in the butt. I've not run into where that has prevented me from really, succeeding in the missions, but because it's listed in the journal, I usually buy the book to try and unlock it even before that. But I'm supposed to tell this man something according to
Monsters are threatening the
my
landing in the
missions,
swamp.
but
Everyone
I don't even
keeps
see that in the dialogue
Who should I talk to
options
about
here.
ridding them of the danger?
Contact Luvarden.
So overall,
He's usually on the dike,
I enjoy the
supervising
game.
and unloading of goods.
It's
Thanks, Sultan.
Yes?
it's an interesting foray into the world of The Witcher. It was the first game as a whole in the series, which I don't know that you necessarily have to play them in the order that they were created.
How are you doing?
Ever considered marriage, Geralt?
My profession's not exactly conducive to marriage. Infertility, incessant risk.
But it's just
travel.
very
Not
stiff.
many women would agree to
It's
See,
the
I'm
writing
doubts.
is
Go on.
very
I
stop
haven't
start.
seen her for some time.
Like I
I'm
say,
getting
it's very
jealous.
distracted
She
in kind
dwarves
of
are so
like
desirable.
I understand
I
that you
suggest
have
we
an
drink
overarch
heavily.
like
If that
mini
doesn't help.
games
You
are. I'm talking
mocking
over
me?
this, so I
wouldn't
apologize.
Hardly something to laugh about.
But there's an overarching story, and then you have the many things that happen in the towns that you're doing. My overarching story at this point is to try to find the professor, which is a man that I literally ran into when I first got into the city proper, and I'm vaguely led to him, or following the salamanders. So my main storyline that this game is supposed to be pulling me through isn't really giving me any sense of urgency or any real clear-cut pathway to that end, to that goal.
Got a minute?
What's eating you?
And I don't know why this is blanked out,
Nothing,
because
actually.
Yes?
I've already done that. Apparently that updated my quest somehow. Ooh, 3 of a kind. I lost. Got nothing. I just need a 2 for a straight. I lost that. Oh, it's a best of 4? What do I have then? I lose too much. Okay. Alright. So I can play poker with the gardener. I don't care. Like, and then some of these missions, like, obviously I guess the stars are literally my my main missions. But like this I would consider probably fairly large and important. I don't even know how to do this one. And, you know, knowing where some of these creatures were that I'm supposed to get the drops from would be nice as well. This one is just like a random storyline that has woven its way through that I've not really gotten much traction out of. And guidebooks were almost mandatory. Right. And that's probably like my main gripe on the game is like I would literally need some sort of guidance to run through this game. Otherwise, and that's honestly what irks me, because I am a person that likes to go through and do all of the side missions, find all of the, you know, I'm, if not a 100%, you know, perfectionist, I like to do at least the majority of the stuff. And if I know that I've missed something, it bugs the ever-loving crap out of me. So that's honestly why me as a gameplay person, I plan my stuff out. In Pathfinder, I usually plan my characters to level 20 before I even start playing them. In, you know, games like, oh, what's an example? I mean, MMOs, a lot of the time. In WoW, I planned out that I was going to have one character of every available class, what race they were going to be, and what sex they were going to be. So, you know, by the time I finished for all classes, which were, I think, 10 at the time, I think it's still 10, but I had 5 Horde, 5 Alliance, 5 female, 5 male, and I had, you know, some sort of game plan, some sort of tie, to where I didn't have any duplicates of races within those 10. unless you don't count allied races as, different races. Which I would. They have different racial abilities and whatnot. So, but I'm a planner. I like to plan the game. When I started playing, or was thinking about playing Dark Souls, I literally went through each game. I went through what weapon I was going to use and what build I needed to do for each of those. So I like to drive things into the ground with being able to play it. And that honestly, in some way, shape, or form, depending upon the game, may take some of the fun out of it, because I've literally looked up everything. I know, what to expect or what I'm reaching towards, so it kind of reveals some of the gameplay of the game.
Crime rises and the city guards just stare at skirts.
What can I do for you?
So, Final Fantasy XIV really was the...
What use are your goods?
If you need no jewelry yourself, what of others? They're excellent gifts.
It was the
worth
first
3 times the
MMO
gold.
that I really approached without looking into it at all. And it very much led itself to that because of the fact that you had no tree to go down. You had no, stats that you had to input. It literally leveled you as you went. You unlocked abilities as you leveled. Other than choosing your class, character-driven over plot-driven, you want to tell the story of your character and maximize who they are and getting immersed. Yes, very much. I want to, and that's, I guess, kind of what I'm missing here. Like, this is a character that is presented to me, but rather than, and it's a valid way for character and story presentation is to explore the characters and history of the character as you play. Especially in this case where Geralt has lost his memory, you are unlocking characters that have been in his past as you play through. And that's honestly part of the mystery and attraction to Geralt as the character as a whole. But you as the player, you're just given quote unquote vanilla character that you really have no tie to, and you're expected to, at least in this game, follow his journey through learning who he is, because he has no idea who he is at this point, which is also part of the game mechanics, because you are leveling the character, you are creating the character in the image that you would like. But we're very, at least in my opinion, very low on the totem pole of immersing you really into this world. Like, you're presented the character. If you had no inclination of what this character was, which I've watched the Netflix show, which was a fantastic representation of, I think, the world and the character, and the fact that the show is presented in a non-linear timeline was, in my mind, a great choice. It pulls you in, it gives you that intrigue to the character, to the story, in learning that the characters you're seeing, the events that you're seeing, aren't in a linear order, and you have to piecemeal it together. Now, that in a show is one thing. You trying to play that is an entirely different matter. And me, unfortunately, having that as a basis for this world is throwing my brain in multiple directions on, okay, where does this lie? Where does this come in? At what point are we, in the show's timeline? What point I know this name. Where is this in actuality? Because, to be fair, the Netflix show doesn't give you much of the world, which I am always hungry for. Learning, what happens, historical events, watching those events play out. I think honestly, I started playing. What is it? Shoot, I can't think of the name of it, but it was an RPG, fairly famous RPG series that I can't think, video game RPG series that I can't think of now. Dragon Age. I started playing Dragon Age Inquisition, and right. And that's one of the reasons why I really want to get into the books and read through. But also, I think from what I've read and delved and done research in on the books, even the books weren't written in a chronological order. But at least with the books, you can, now that they are, I believe, all basically released, you can read them in as chronological of an order as you need to, because people have already explored it and suggest that this makes sense if you put it in this way. I mean, even the robot series of Isaac Asimov, if you read through those, the robot series, the Foundation series, and I forget what the third one is, but there's a third series. You find out that all three of those series by Asimov are about the same character by different names, or same characters by different names, and through the timeline, and that it weaves in and out. So, stuff like that is cool. Stuff like that is intriguing. I enjoy crap like that. It's just, going through that in a book form or a visual media form, or actually doing those before you play the game is what's throwing me off. I haven't actually read any of the books yet. I only own one of them, and I haven't gotten to it yet. I don't understand the purposes of rings, other than giving them as gifts. But I've not been told in playing this game what the benefits of gifts are. Other than they make you more favorable to whomever you are. So this is just, it's one of those games to where this is I'm playing this to complete the missions rather than I'm playing this to you're playing it for the mission and the completion aspect rather than you're playing it for the story and the character development aspect, is at least the vibe that I'm getting currently, which I would prefer it be vice versa. And if that means that, I like having my hand held through a game, fair point. I don't deny that. I like stuff that is at least open, and I at least have the option, playing the Spider-Man game, or playing stuff like, what was Dan playing the other day? Prototype. I actually had Prototype when I had my first Xbox 360. It was rough because of the time frame that it was, but it was the what was that game series that was almost a not carbon copy, but a very similar version, but on the PS4 to Prototype, where the guy had electric powers. And then they did the third one I cannot think. Because I played through the first 2 of those games. Well, at least the first one and then part of the second one. With a friend. Infamous. But it was near impossible with guidebook. Nice. So stuff like that, to where it's a semi-open world to where you can do the mini missions, but you still have obviously the storyline going through, and you have the exploration and you know, the abilities and stuff like that. That's something that I at least the first Assassin's Creed video games were similar to that as well. I like stuff like that. If it's, you know, a single RPG storyline running through. But like you say, you have very much the Legend of Zelda games underneath your belt, whereas I have never played any of those for any length of time.
Protect yourself from the plague.
How do I do that?
Cover your nose and
And
mouth.
part of my
Use a
problem
flax
is
cloth.
not having
Wrap
the
your gob and
experience
the plague might not
of,
claim you.
you know, the older games. Most of my point of reference, point of frame, is unfortunately the newer stuff, which has some of the kinks ironed out. And I feel like I look back on these games probably a little bit too harshly because of just my experience with the newer age of, you know, games in general. Why am I headed to the dungeon? I think that was just the mark that I left. To the messenger of the man, meet him tonight. Okay, so, and part of this game that I don't understand, I guess, is the day-night aspect. Like, the majority of the things that I have to do in this game are during the night. So, like, I understand that you can nap, but like, some of these missions I can only do at night. Like the, if I have to go to the water side, the monsters only come out at night. So, you know, 4 of these missions that I have are, you know, I am just literally flicking my thumbs around, twiddling my thumbs around until night, unless I just basically do a time skip, which I feel like is honestly poor planning. Like, if I'm in the game, if I'm playing the game, why am I specifically just killing my time in game?
What is it, Witcher?
To play the game.
See ya.
To move forward in the game. Trade Quarter, Royal Castle, Gate to the Dike. That's the cemetery. I've not explored any farther out than the normal. The warehouse is at midnight. That's during the night. Pursuing an investigation. That's not cryptic at all, or, you know, unclear. Interrogate the witness, where I don't even know where the hell that guy is, because I can't get into... Oh, wait. Let me go give the drugs to that dude. That's why I was headed to the dungeon. Roots. Drugs.
I never turn down good Fizztech.
I don't know whether I gave him
Tell me about that Salamandra prisoner.
all 4 of those or just one.
I hardly know anything.
Where is he?
Okay,
They
so
took
we
him to
finally got
Laguna
progression
Hospital.
here.
Thanks. Who did you confiscate the Witcher's sword from?
Tala, the fence, has to earn his living somehow. Before we let the professor out, Tala and Vincent were chatting in the courtyard.
Before I went down the sewers. Somehow I sense it was no coincidence. Where do I find
I already
Tala?
asked him.
I marked the place on the map, but don't kill him. We have a deal with him.
You should drop that habit.
Maybe, but not today.
Good to know that you have your priorities, my dude.